Thought it might be interesting and possibly useful for some if I showed a method that we've been using here for several years to help clean our 3/16" tubing lines. Now, I'm not saying this will work in all situations or that others haven't developed systems that work well or better, but maybe there's an idea or two here that some might want to try depending on their situations. We have around 700 taps on this 3/16 tubing. There is no vacuum assist, only what gravity does, because the sap does fill the tubing and creates a vacuum, provided there's necessary slope. Our lines run from 50 to 150 yards in length, probably average around 10 to 25 taps per line. Slope isn't a lot, maybe 5 to 10 feet on the longest lines. And that means, of course, that there are sections where the lines tend to sag, especially when they get loaded with sap. And I should also mention that this is just a characteristic of the 3/16 lines because they do retain the sap, and that's the reason they can create their vacuum. But it definitely is a downside when it comes to cleaning, I think. So anyway, unless the sap is removed from the lines, and especially where they are, their sags are, unwanted sludge or kind of stuff seems to form, and that can potentially plug tees and connectors. So what we'll show here is what's going on this year, 2024 in April, and we're also going to go back to some of the cleaning that we did in May of 2022.
What we're up to this morning is we're going to start in here on cleaning up some of our sap lines. These are the 3/16 lines. They don't have any vacuum applied to them, and they're just using or relying on the slight slope that we have here. So that's our setup, and here's some of the equipment that there are things we're going to use to do that. We've got a little portable air compressor here, along with some water and basically a garden dispenser here, so that if we put our liquid in here, in this case we're using just pure water at this time, we can run some of that into our end spile that's on the end of the 3/16 line. Run some of that in, and then we'll force air with our portable air compressor in after that. So that's kind of what we've done here for a few years. Seems to work out pretty well. It'll drive some water, and then of course all the sap, any sap left in the lines, ahead of that water. And if we have any sags in our lines, if anything is in those sags, it's going to get pushed out, and anything that would remain in those sags should be pretty much the water, pure water. So hopefully, and that seemed to have worked as far as eliminating some of the problems that some folks have claimed with the things plugging up those small connectors on the drop lines there, the tees, maybe some other areas too on connectors. If you can keep the sap from staying in those lines and fermenting in there, it seems like we don't get those, I don't know, we call them black things that are in the lines, and that tend to congregate in the connectors and can plug things up. So anyway, with that said, let's get at this, and we'll kind of demonstrate what we've been doing with it. Okay, so here's our end tree, or the first tree on this 3/16 line, and there I've got that spile put back into the line. Now we're going to connect the hose to it, and we're just going to squirt some water, yeah, a little more than that, into that line. We'll use that to flush it with. I think that should be enough. Okay, and then what we're going to do is connect our portable compressor. These are really pretty neat because the way they're set up, you can set the gauge for the number of pounds you want. We're going to use 26 here, I think, is what we've got set up for. So we have our compressor set at 26 pounds, and we're connected to the sap line. So we'll turn this on then. Now if it reaches 26, because it's trying to shove that water down, and it can't move that fast, so it will actually reach that PSI, and we have to reset here, go at it again. Let's bump this up to about 20, 26. Now as pressure is dropping, it is forcing that liquid down through the line. As long as we got pressure here in our portable air compressor, you know, we know in that line that it's forcing that liquid that we put in that liquid water down through it. Now this is a long line. It probably is, I'd say it's close to 250 yards, a good 200 yards at least. Okay, so we've dropped down to 9, dropping down still. And if we were down at the other end, eventually we'll see that liquid water, maybe some sap ahead of it too if we had some sags in the lines coming through it. Let's bump our pressure back up again. On a shorter line, you'll actually find that the pressure will not build back up to the 25 or whatever we're setting it at. And eventually, once all that liquid gets through the line, then it will barely build pressure at all. Okay, I think we may have reached the point where the liquid is finally through, or water is finally through all the length of that line. Now I went back to get the camera because as I was working on this line here, I saw some little black thing moving down it when I put the air pressure to it. And that goes about twice as fast as you can walk, so it does take a while for this to reach the 200 yard mark. But on this one I noticed that the pressure was dropped really fast. I mean, I hadn't pumped very long at all, and next thing I knew it was dropping back to 0. So I'm thinking there's a break in the line or something, so we're going to go down here and see if we can spot something. Kind of a neat thing about this cleaning system is that you kind of get so you can tell what's going on by watching the pressures on that air compressor with the digital readout. You know, so far these are, oh, what's this? Okay, so far these things are okay. And here's our issue. I'd say a bear chew. Bears are pretty nasty that way, maybe, or something happened here. Anyway, that's our liquid down there that got was shooting out of here. My son is working over on the line, pulling the spiles on the drop lines. He said he could hear something, and this is what it would be when that was flushing out. So what we're going to do is reconnect that, and then go back up and start our cleaning operation again, because this line would not be blown out or cleaned from this point on down. So we hope there's no more of those that are pulled off like that. That also tells me that during the sap season, if that was pulled off, we lost everything above this, which would be, you know, a good 7 or 8 trees. And this grab and go sprayer here just came with the end of the wand. I was able to jam a 5/16 inch tubing over that. That fits pretty well on our 1/4 inch spiles that we're using here. On the air compressor, that came with an adapter here. Normally the things they're using for air tire inflation and stuff, but that came with an adapter. Get that out, and that had a taper to it, so I was able to again just shove a 5/16 tube on that, and then I clamped that into the tire thing here, and that worked out pretty well. Well, I just walked up to the top of this line. I suppose it's only about 5 or 10 feet of elevation here. I suppose it's about 150 feet long. All the spiles are connected in this one, and I've just hooked the water up, so we're going to shoot some water into this one. I can see it going in. It's probably down about, it's going to be 10 feet. 10 feet, so let's hook our air up to it. What I'll try to do here is turn this thing back on as soon as it turns off, and we'll kind of see how this works out, if it works the way it should work. What you can kind of notice is how the pressure starts to go down once that line of liquid hits the end, and then it drops pretty quick back down to zero. So that's kind of the way this works on a fairly short line. Yeah, it's May 10th, and what we're doing here is starting to clean out our 3/16 lines. And what we're going to do is go to the end line and pull the spile on these things. Then we're going to shoot some cleaning solution, which is about 3% hydrogen peroxide, into the line. A little bit in there. I suppose it runs about 10 feet into the line. And then we're going to follow it up with an air compressor. And we'll shoot that stuff out the end of our tubes here, and that'll kind of clean out any residual sap or anything that's left in the lines. The drop lines will get pulled later then. So anyway, that's what we're up to.
Unconnect the line at the end of it then?
We will up there where he is.
Before you start pumping.
Yep, we're gonna go up there now.
Okay.
All right, we're coming up to the end, our end of the first 3/16 line. And he's pulling the spile out of the tree and hooking it up to the cleaning solution. Gonna squirt some of that in there, and we're gonna follow that up with some air. Portable air compressor there, and turn this on, and I'm going to set the poundage to somewhere's around 30 pounds. Any more than that, you usually blow out the connector from the spile, so 35 is good enough. And we'll start that up then. Now what it does is it reaches the maximum right off the bat, because there isn't much distance between where the air is coming in and the sap itself, and it drops. We'll shoot it up again. Taking longer this time because the liquid's been forced further down the line. One more shot here and see what it does. When it starts dropping like that, it usually means that the liquid's been shoved all the way out.
You know, there's air going through it.